Come on, sis. Stand in solidarity with us as we talk to some real people today. If you are looking for reconnecting back to real life, maybe you have lost a loved one, or you want to share your story, then yes, you should follow us on Instagram at PS Consulting Firm. I am your host, Truly Portia, and I'm here to give hope and generational wealth to the misguided people.
All right. And our mission is to educate and empower Black women with tools to elevate through sisterhood and self-care. I'm your host, Stacey J, and a little bit about me. My passion is mentoring young Black women to help them find their own light.
Awesome. So today's topic, we want you to rise. And that's receiving intervention, support, and education, bridging the gap between you and your best self. We have a very, very special guest here, and her name is Ebony Wright. Ebony Wright is a wife, mom of two, and licensed mental health therapist in the state of Virginia. She is the owner and CEO of R.I.S.E, Counseling and Consulting Services, LLC, located in Portsmouth, Virginia. As a mental health practitioner, Ebony strongly believes in educating others on best practices to increase individual levels of resilience, positive character development, emotional intelligence, healthy coping skills, and overall mental and physical well-being. So we want to jump into these questions. So, Ebony, what made you want to enter the field of mental health? And what are your specializations?
Okay, so that question is has a complex answer, but I'll try to make it brief. So what initially led me to mental health is actually at the age of 12, my family welcomed into our home a foster child who was a little less than 2 at the time, but to kind of sum it up, my experience with, and I was 12 and he was, like I said, about a little under 2. So my experience in connecting with him and kind of watching him through the process of coming into our home, some of the things that led him to being there just kind of opened my eyes, even at that age. And I, at that point, recognized that I wanted to be a voice of hope to those who maybe didn't feel like they had one. And as far as specializations, after being in the field for a little while, most of my work has been with children. So that was my main demographic target audience in the beginning for most of my career. But in the last year, I've transitioned over to adults. And so specializations, I'm really finding that would include anxiety, depression, and just really focusing on thinking patterns and how those thinking patterns kind of lead us into some of the decisions that we make and some of the relationships that we find ourselves in. So those are the types of things that I try to focus on with the clients that I serve today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Welcome, Ebony. I'm so glad you are here. So I do just want to double back real quick for a second, because when Portia introduced you, she talked about emotional intelligence. And so at the age of 12, when your foster brother came into your home, it sounds like you were emotionally intelligent for a 12-year-old. What do you think?
I guess you could say
that. Yeah. All right. So give yourself credit for that, because a lot of adults don't even have necessarily the emotional intelligence needed to kind of function and cope in a healthy way. But so what are some of the misconceptions you feel like people have with mental health therapy?
Mm-hmm. I think that, it's a lot of different misinformation that I think gets projected, into the community. And so I'll just say some of the things that I've heard. I hear things like, some people are going to think that I'm crazy, or I even hear things like, there's nothing wrong with me, or I think, people can also resonate with something about, how's a stranger going to tell me about my life type of thing. And so those are some of the things that I have heard, from friends and family alike. And I laugh because I say to myself, so y'all know I'm in mental health. What y'all think I'm doing to people? I'm not hurting nobody,
Right.
So, but I think that those are some of the misconceptions. And really, a therapist is just really guidance. We're not the expert on you. You are the expert on you. And oftentimes, when I meet new clients, I compare the counseling relationship to using a GPS. Ultimately, you're kind of the driver. You're in the driver's seat, and you have a destination in mind. I'm there to guide you along. And I often, even when I'm giving them this analogy, I oftentimes even say, hey, if I didn't said turn right and you didn't turn left, it's okay. I'm just gonna reroute. I'm not gonna tell you what you should do, but if you said this is where you want to go, I'm here to guide that process. So I just think that people should understand that it's a collaborative process. It's nothing magical or mythical about it. It's just really two people, talking with someone who has a little bit more understanding of what you may be experiencing on a clinical level.
Yeah, I really like that you said it's collaborative, because I think sometimes people may have the misconception that they're just going to tell me what to do. Right. And I have to do what it is they tell me to do in order to get the result that I'm looking for. But like you said, the analogy is a GPS. And if you get off track, you make a wrong turn, we're going to revisit what it is that we discussed so I can help guide you and reroute you in the direction. I love that. And I'm just so happy that you're here to talk about this so we can kind of destigmatize mental health in the Black community and kind of clear up some of these misconceptions. So thank you for being here.
Yes. And listen, speaking of rerouting, I don't know how the pandemic shifted things for you, but for a lot of people, including myself, it made me change. I started looking at every aspect of my life, and like many people, looking at the various areas, of their lives. What are some ways that we can combat, anxiety and depression?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are obviously, some of the leading mental health disorders across America. And I would say, especially during the pandemic, the biggest thing is to maintain social connections. It forced us into isolation, and which gave us a lot of opportunities for reflection. And so some people, may have used that time to, just kind of imagine themselves in different ways. And some of that may have not been, I'll say, from just the conversations that I'm having with people in the last year, a lot of reflection is happening. And some of that is, not pleasing to them, but also some of the fears that are coming along with things with the pandemic and things like that. I would just say, to utilize social supports. I think that's the biggest thing, recognizing who your support is, where you get your support from, and utilizing those supports on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Because a lot of times, we have this mentality of, I'm strong, I don't need any help, I got this, it's okay. But no, we are built to be relational. That's how God created us. And I think sometimes we forget that, and oftentimes think it's a sign of weakness to say you need help, or, you just want to talk to somebody. But so
is everybody has their own stuff, so sometimes people don't want to reach out because they feel like they may be a burden to someone, but many people, we're all, like you said, we're relational, so we all have somebody, even if the person that is spilling on you, you can't spill back on them, you may have somebody else that you kind of spill over to. But it's like you said, that social connection, I think, is really important.
For sure. So this question is really like near and dear to my heart, because I had a mom once tell me that you're always going to have mom guilt. Like once you become a mom, there's always going to be something that you feel like you could have done better. And I find myself kind of replaying that in my head when it comes to my son. And I'm hard on myself when it comes to certain things. And so what advice can you give moms who are kind of struggling with mom guilt from day to day?
Mm-hmm. So we all are, right? Like I said, the intro, I'm a mother of two. And honestly, the answer that I have for that is give yourself grace. That's it.
Portia, isn't that my line? That's my line. Show yourself grace. So I'm so glad to hear you tell me that.
She said, when I say she
register.
brings that so much to me, like I now say that to myself. Before it was like, no, you need to do better. Like, come on, these kids need, and half the time they're not even asking us for this stuff.
That's it.
But not even half the time, 98%. I'm gonna say that 98% of the time. They're not asking. So,
they're
grace.
not. Yeah. Grace. I mean, that's really it. There's always going to be, something, but grace. We can't. We although we are, quite the superhero. We literally we can't do it all. So we have to give ourselves grace for that. And like you said, children really aren't expecting it. What we do is enough. Truthfully.
That's true. I think my thing in the back of my mind is that I want to make sure that my son doesn't have to heal from anything that I am doing. So I'm just like hyper vigilant about that. But at the same time, am I attracting that energy?
I can relate to that. I can relate to that as well. So everything that I say, and just like I tell my clients, I don't say anything that I haven't already tried myself, any of those things. I can relate to a lot of that. So, I think what I had to realize is building on the small moments. Sometimes we think we got to have these big grand gestures in order to be in the category of, effective parenting, but sometimes it's really just those small little things that, really make the difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you are right, because as you were talking and you saying it's those building on the small moments, I'm thinking like the biggest smile that I get from Josiah is when we just we play our tickle game. And he just loves when I just take the time and just tickle him for probably 30, 40 minutes until my fingers go numb. And I'm like, okay, we got to do something else. Right. Yeah. Or when I put him to bed, like, when I have the time, when like our nighttime routine is between he and I, that's the time that he and I spend together, when I give him his bath and help him brush his teeth and put him to bed and, and just say, I love you. And he say, I love you too. And now I say, I love you, baby. And he say, I love you too, baby. And I'm just like, oh.
He'll remember it, right? He'll remember it.
Yes. So I really appreciate this. And I really do believe that so many people can benefit from what you're saying. So thank you so much for kind of helping to ease that part of my anxiety when it comes to parenting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we all can touch and agree, when it comes to our boys, especially today, the world we live in, the things you see on TV, and not just, fake TV. This is stuff that's happening in reality. And I have a son as well. My Jeremiah, it makes me want to do more and give more to him. So for some of our sisters who are single moms raising sons, what are some ways that we can employ best practices to raise him to be a good man, father, a spouse?
So I don't know if there's a real clinical answer to that, but I will say this, something that I thought about is maybe taking the emphasis off of the man, the gender aspect of it, and just making him a good human, right? So,
oh my goodness, hold on. That is a preached word. Please repeat that, girl. You got to say that again.
Because you think about it, and I've heard this for years. Women can't teach their son how to be a man. Those types of things, and I think that we've kind of adopted that mindset that because there's a gender difference, there's nothing that we can teach him. Like he has to have, and of course we want male role models for sure. We can find opportunities for that too, for those to be present. But, more than anything, we want him to be a good human, So I think that, teaching those basic, skills of being compassionate, being kind, loving, giving, those types of things. And then showing, your sons how to demonstrate those things, through who they are as a male. I think that that's one way to approach that.
Girl, that is so beautiful. I mean, that is just excellent. Yeah. That's how I know you are expert at what you do, because that is a brilliant answer. Oh my gosh. I love that. I think sometimes we do need to kind of step away from the gender role and just say, okay, how are you as a person? Like, are you a happy, whole, and well person?
Yeah.
Oh, let me make a note. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about blended families. And so we know, a lot of people come from blended families, or a lot of people are blending families. And so when do you think is the right time for the discussion to be had about a biological parent who has never been in the child's life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like it has many different variables.
Okay.
Yeah, because the first thing that comes to my mind is this person expected to be a part of their life, and at any point, or is this just information that you want them to know, just for general purposes, their adult life, etc. But I think that with that being said, that there are so many different variables in making that decision, it would be definitely a case by case thing. But I would say this: some things that you might want to consider is, number one, maybe a cost and benefit analysis, good old pros and cons. What can the child, understand, what's appropriate to tell them at what age, or what level. And, are there any disadvantages to not sharing that information? That's a very interesting, because like I did share, my youngest brother came to us at a young, when he was less than 2 years old. So his biological mother, it did come into his life periodically, and then for like probably a span of over 5 years, he actually forgot that she had ever been present. So I do remember trying to rehab those types of conversations about that. So I really don't know if it's an answer where you tell them when they're young, or you wait till they're old, if it'll lessen the blow. I don't know. Yeah.
I really appreciate the fact that you said, I don't know. There's not a clinical answer.
We're so honest with saying, I don't know. And sometimes you don't have the answers. But what you also said too, like pretty much weighing the cost and the benefit.
Yeah.
What is it going to cost, as far as sharing this with the child, and the benefits of the relationship or the conversation taking place in general? Like, what is it? What is the outcome?
Right.
Of this, being told and shared. So your honesty, your transparency, that's what we love here. Me and Stacey talk about it all the time. We're not perfect or anything like that, but there are resources and tools out here available to you. You just have to be willing to connect yourself with people who are able to tell you the truth, right? And in an expert way as well, but also they're open enough and honest to say, hey, I don't know that answer. But we can still talk about it. Let's talk through this. And here's what I would suggest, right? And it's up to you if you want to use that and apply it. So again, your presence, you being here is more than appreciated. We definitely need more people like you in this world. The yellow is very fitting for
yes, girl. That's one of my favorite colors. You look good. I'm just looking at us in the Zoom, the little squares, like we look good.
Go and look, Black girl magic, okay? Sprinkle all on here. Okay?
Yes.
Sprinkle that Black girl magic.
Yes. Now, speaking of magic, I would honestly think that, social media and the technology we have today is part of the magic that we all can feel and see and experience. But our kids now have greater access to more information than ever before. So what is a good age to talk to your kids about sex and drugs, and how should we approach this conversation?
Listen, my heart just did do a little, because my daughter's 10. Okay.
Mm.
So, she's very much, into the TikToking and all of that, all of that access, like you said. So I would say this. Honestly, as early as possible with age appropriate, language. I mean, I can think back to when my daughter was 6 years old, coming home and telling me about what so and so had said in first grade.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
we gotta, we know as parents there are so many influences outside of us, and at that time we were very she really had very limited access to the internet. It was the kids, at school. So we have to be aware of that. They're going to come into that information. So I just have I'm very open with her. I haven't always, I say what's appropriate for her age. Some things I'd be like, this is all I'm gonna say about that. But this is I give her enough so that she doesn't have to rely on the information of her peers, which is probably just wrong. So my mom always used to tell me, your friends know enough to know, if I was 10, she would say they know just enough to be 10. That's all they know. So you need to come.
That's true. Yeah, that's
Always
true.
said that. And now I say that to my daughter, please don't take that from them. Come to me, and so I give her, and sometimes she's like, ew, mom, but hey, you've heard it, and now she's in 5th grade and she just finished with the family life little classes. They did that for like 3 days, and so she got it even more education. And so, but even then, oh my God, I can't even tell y'all some of the stuff that I won't even, but y'all know, and I just sit there like, okay, but she comes to me, and honestly, that's all I can be, so I just say, keep the lines of communication open. Please don't let it be a subject that you don't ever touch, because then you won't know what your child knows and what they're thinking and how they're applying that information.
That
And
is very true. That's very true. Because a lot of times in like the Christian, I want to say maybe like the Pentecostal, old school Pentecostal household, that's how I was brought up. We didn't talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
We did not talk about that stuff at all. And like I'm not going to say their names, but my cousins kind of like told me different stuff and like showed me stuff. And I was like,
Right.
Like I'm telling you, like I even tell my husband now, I'm 36 years old, and some stuff he'll say, I'll be like, I'm so green. Like, I don't know this stuff. I don't know what you're talking about. And so we've had a conversation before. Josiah, he'll be 2 next month, but we talk about the future and how we plan on raising him. And, when we're going to talk to him about different things. And my husband said exactly what you said. I'm going to talk to him as early as possible so he can get it from me, because if not, his friends are going to tell him. They're going to have phones. They're going to have access to so many different types of things. And I'm like, Lord have mercy, Jesus, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready. But I better get ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I do make a point to even make sure he knows the accurate words for his body parts.
Yeah.
And so he told his grandma the other day about his male body part, his male anatomy. And she was like, oh, he know all the words. I was like, yes, he does. Because I want him to know, what's what
Right.
goes where, who's supposed to touch you there, and whatever. And I just feel like, like you said, keeping that open line of communication is super, super important. I just feel like I got to grow up a little bit, because I'm gonna be like, why?
I be crying, don't lie. I'll be like, ooh. Yes.
Oh man. So I want to ask you real quick about this. Kind of can tie into it, sex and drugs. So a lot of parents feel like, okay, if my kid does something wrong, if I find out they're having sex, or if I find out they're doing drugs, then I should spank them. And a lot of times in the Black community, we don't say, you're going to get a spanking. We say either you're going to get a whooping or you're going to get a beating. So what do you think about spanking, is it ever appropriate?
You know what? This is what I would say. Okay. So I'm a parent. Okay. My patience gets tried 20,000 times a day. But I will say that, you know, I think that there's a lot of other alternatives, and there's a lot of other things that can be, you know, positive discipline rather, that can be utilized when you're trying to correct the behavior or reinforce, you know, etc. So that's
what would you say, Ebony, are some positive disciplinary actions? What would you say?
So, you know,
and of course, we understand, you know, you have your business, but you're also a mom too. So if you want to make it clear on separating the two, please, you know, share that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'll say this. For, you know, even for my kids, and I really don't, you know, my mom think I should, you know, hit them a little more often, all that talking. But you know, that's the older, you know what I mean? That's older, you know, thinking. And now
that's my mama.
Right.
That's my mama.
You do too much talking, you know, but why not? You know, and I try not to, I'll say this, I try, so I do. First I use, you know, just communication. You know, I give warnings, you know, I do tell sometimes, you know, this will be the consequence if, you know, this or that doesn't happen. So just the general stuff, you know, punishment, but even with punishment, being realistic. That's one of my pet peeves about even utilizing punishment. You got to be realistic. If you know you can't uphold a punishment for 2 weeks, then don't tell your child. Don't do stuff like that. Empty threats, all those types of things. I just think that creates, you know, power dynamic that just doesn't go in the favor of a parent. So, you know, you just got to be careful. So I try to be for example, like my daughter, even when she was younger, I would just say things like, you know, she would have punishment maybe for 1 day, you know, not a week, because I know that I'm gonna forget. So I think the biggest thing is just being consistent with what your discipline method is. And then, you know, you're more likely to see the results that, you know, you want to see, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. And even to the point of like, you know, punish your child in a way that they can understand or that it's effective. Like if your kid doesn't play video games, don't take away their Xbox. Like that's not effective. You know what I mean? But you know, like you said, just be realistic. And I will say, y'all will be so proud of me because Josiah is almost 2, but I do try to, you know, talk to him and give him warnings, and I give him 3 tries. Today, he got me so hot, I didn't even do anything. He took a rock. He went outside. I was getting ready to put him in the car. Takes a rock and scrapes it across my car on both sides. Whoa. I was like,
and what did you do, Mom? What did you do?
I looked at him and I said, Josiah, why did you do this? He didn't have an answer. So I took the rock and I took the rock. Right? I'm waiting for him to give me a whole dissertation. I need you to tell me, what were you thinking when you took that rock across my red car? Ooh. And I mean, so I just took the rock and threw it in the trash. His thing is, he loves rocks. So when he goes outside, he always collects them. And before he comes in the house, we tell him, just put them outside by the steps. Well, yesterday he went outside with his dad and brought a rock back this big that I didn't know about. So as I'm walking around the car, I hear some, and I turn around, and this little joker got a rock.
You know what? You know what I want to say real quick in response to that? Because something that just came to my mind. I think too, a lot of times with parenting, some of our frustration could be coming in at the point of thinking they should know, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, and I oftentimes, so even with my adult clients, like I will talk about something called cognitive distortions, which is basically irrational thinking. And it's irrational because it may not have enough evidence to support it. So many times if you find yourself angry or irritated or frustrated with someone, it may be a should statement in there somewhere. They should have known, they should have did that. And so with kids, we have to kind of evaluate, we have to take a pause for a minute and really evaluate whether or not they have the capacity, the capability, and really the true understanding to make, to make proper decisions. They're impulsive. I mean, they're kids,
Yes.
They have the same level of functioning and thinking as adults.
Right. And I took him to my mom's house because he hadn't been over there in 2 weeks. And we were, like I said, we were outside. I was getting ready to put him in a car. And so I tell my mom, and she pretty much tells me exactly what you said, but of course in a non-clinical way, right? She was like, he didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know that if he did it, he couldn't undo it. And I was like, yes, he did, Mom. He knew. Anyway, I'm gone because I got to talk to these people at 4 o'clock. I'll be back. Just
like, fresh. Oh, Lord.
I'm like, so I said, you know what? I was like, I might be back for him, but I might not. She was like, come on, stop lying. She know I'm super protective of him, but I just needed a moment. And so to double back to what we talked about, mom guilt, I was sitting here and I'm thinking like, okay, when I pick him up, I'm going to make sure that I reiterate, because even though I was upset with him when I dropped him off, I did tell him that I love him. But I just want him to I just feel like I need to reiterate the fact that when you make mistakes, it's okay. Like, I don't ever want to be so hard on him that he feel like he can't make a mistake or he can't come to me when he makes a mistake. And I know people looking at this might be like, he only 2, girl, calm down. But
listen, we could put a pin here and we could certainly talk about this whole, this is a whole show right here, this topic. Because it still matters. That's where the formative years are. Yeah.
So I truly appreciate you being here. And so before you go, just let us know, is there anything else that you want your sisters to know? And by your sisters, I mean in this community that Portia and I are working so hard to create. Is there anything else you want to talk to your sisters about?
I just want to kind of double back to the grace. I think as women of color, as moms and employees, business owners, etc., we wear a lot of hats, right?
Yeah.
And everybody, they look at us and they, we make it look very easy. So I just want to, make sure that women everywhere just understanding that, it's okay it's okay to not be okay. That's number one. Just we don't have to be, a superhero all the time. So if it's one of those days or one of those weeks, that's what it is. If you need to reach out for support at that time, do so. I also want to say real quick, self-care, and I noticed that was a part of one of your, your anchor statement, Stacey, because that's really important. I think as women, we also think we got to take care of everyone else first, right? Mm-hmm. And we do it naturally, we just start taking care of everybody else and we the last one on the list, but that's faulty, because if we don't have enough in our cup, we're gonna run out, right?
Didn't you just say that? You just said that, and we just had that same conversation this week about self-care and just remembering yourself.
We have to take care of ourselves first. And I had to explain this to my daughter, because she used to make me feel real guilty about wanting to do things outside of the house, just FYI. That's because she's too attached. But I had to explain it to her like this. I said, listen, like when you're using your phone and the battery started going, I said, the time that I, spend away, that's me getting charged back up. That's me recharging so I can come back and be the mom I want to be the wife I want to be, we have to unplug, we have to come away from that and recharge. And so it's best to do that consistently instead of when we get depleted. So that's
yes, that's good. Don't wait until you're depleted. Yeah, don't wait until you're depleted before you recharge and take care of yourself. Yeah, that's really, really good. I truly appreciate your time and your wisdom. Like, yes. I will say this on camera, Nick is so blessed. He is so blessed.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. He is so blessed to have you as a wife. And I am just so proud of you. I'm so proud to have met you. I don't want this to be the last time that we speak. I would definitely want you to come back and we can, pick your brain a little bit more.
Okay.
Just because Portia and I really, really believe in mental health and destigmatizing all of that in the Black community. So tell our audience where they can find you on social media.
Yes, so if you want to connect or seek an outpatient therapy services in the state of Virginia, you can visit my website at www.risenowva.com. And also you can connect on Instagram at risenowva.
Awesome. Ebony, it's been such a pleasure having you here and sharing this space with you. This will not be the last time you come on, sis, with us. We truly believe that, again, more sisters could benefit from people like you, what you offer, and even who you are as a human being, just a person overall. I think if, more people connect themselves with like-minded individuals and people who want to be better and do better mentally, physically, spiritually, it could truly make a difference. And speaking of Instagram, I always want to make sure our sisters know that on our Instagram page as well, that we do have helplines featured there. The helplines are there for mental health, suicide lines are there, substance, drug abuse lines as well. But use that. We're here with resources and tools. And as you can see, these are real people that we're talking to. We want you to be better. You do not have to suffer in silence. Come stand in solidarity with us.
Absolutely. I could not have said that any better. That was absolutely perfect. I love you ladies with the love of Jesus Christ. And until next time, y'all take care.
Take care. We love you.
Looking for a place to listen, learn, and laugh? Then come on, sis, and join Truly Portia and Stacey J every Monday and Wednesday, where we discuss growth in every area of life. No topic is off limits. Let's grow together, stand in solidarity, and fix each other's crowns. Brought to you by PS Consulting Firm, because there's more. By PS Consulting Firm, because there's more.
I was struggling. Y'all have no idea. It's been a long time
Struggling
coming.
Is not the word. That I couldn't believe. At least we could laugh about it because I was like.